Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! I wanted to share a story with you all, something that happened recently that honestly left me pretty shaken up. It all started with a simple bike, of all things. You see, my mountain bike got stolen a while back, and I was pretty devastated about it. But then my cousin came into the picture with a solution that led to a whole lot of drama. So my cousin, let's call him Mike, called me up one day. He said he had this old beach cruiser bike sitting in his parents' backyard for ages. He claimed he didn't use it and figured I could fix it up and use it instead of buying a new one. I was grateful for the offer because I was in no position to buy a brand new bike, but this beach cruiser was in rough shape. It was rusty, the tires were flat, and it hadn't seen a day of TLC in years. But I'm pretty handy with tools and I thought, why not? I'll take on the challenge. So I spent hours cleaning it up, replacing rusty parts and getting the thing back into working order. It wasn't perfect, but it was rideable, and I was very proud of the work I put into it. Here is where things took an unexpected turn. After I'd fixed up the bike, Mike suddenly had a change of heart. He came to me and said he wanted either $60 for the bike or the bike itself, because, well, he intended to sell it. I was taken aback to say the least. I reminded him that he'd given me the bike willingly, but he insisted that I now owed him money for making it look nice. I was frustrated and posted about the situation on Reddit's IT subreddit. I needed some advice on how to handle this bizarre situation. Little did I know that one of Mike's friends saw the post and told him about it. Word spread like wildfire and the whole family found out about the situation. Not because I wanted them to, but because Mike ranted to them about it. Surprisingly though, my family didn't take his side. Instead, they sympathized with me and agreed that Mike was in the wrong. They even told him to grow up and stop trying to take advantage of me. But that didn't sit well with Mike. He got even angrier after the family chat. A few days later, as I was riding my newly fixed up bike home from work, Mike confronted me on the street. He was livid. He demanded even more money for the bike, saying that since I'd humiliated him on Reddit, he was imposing an a-hole tax on me. According to him, the cost of the bike had now skyrocketed to $80. I tried to reason with him, explaining all the effort and money I put into making the bike usable. I even listed all the repairs and the estimated cost if I'd taken it to a bike shop, but he was having none of it. He just kept insisting that I owed him the money right then and there. I was done with the whole situation and tried to ride away, but Mike grabbed me and pulled both me and the bike to the ground. I was shocked and angry, asking him, "What the hell, man?" But he didn't stop there. He actually punched me in the face. It hurt like crazy and I could feel blood running from my nose. Then he grabbed my bike and rode off with it. Thankfully, a kind stranger came over to help me up and I immediately called the police. I didn't care that he was family. What he did was unacceptable. The altercation happened right in front of a store with CCTV cameras, and the cops later obtained the video footage. I was taken to the hospital to check my injuries. Fortunately, my nose was only slightly bruised, and I was okay overall. Meanwhile, the police arrested Mike at his apartment. They found the bike there and he'd even listed it for sale online, but later took it down. I had evidence on my phone of our conversations, including where he said I could have the bike and his harassing messages afterward. His parents were also present when he initially gave me the bike and they were well aware of his attempt to take advantage of me. So after some resistance, Mike surrendered the bike and it was returned to me at the police station. My boss gave me a few days off to recover and things seemed to be settling down. My cousin, however, did not get off easy. When he was arrested, they found out he'd been drinking, and since he wasn't yet 21, he faced charges for underage drinking on top of theft and assault. He called his parents to bail him out, but they refused after learning what he'd done to me. Instead, they came to visit me and were deeply apologetic for their son's behavior. They confessed that Mike had been asking for money a lot lately and likely spending it on his bad habits. No one knew where he was getting the alcohol from. The truth was, he was digging himself into a deep hole, and it seemed like he was suffering the consequences of his actions. Now that a few days have passed since the incident, Mike is out of jail, but his life has taken a turn for the worse. He told his parents that he's behind on rent and facing eviction since his lease was months to months. On top of that, he got fired from his job because he'd been a no-show due to his time in jail. My friend worked at the same place and I knew Mike had been skating on thin ice with his boss for a while, with frequent tardiness and repeated absences. My cousin's arrest was the final straw and his boss had enough, so he was fired. Now, Mike is dealing with misdemeanor charges, unemployment and eviction. It's all because he chose to be a jerk and a grifter. From what I heard, he was blaming me for all his troubles. But his parents set him straight, reminding him that he had beaten me up and stolen from me. They told him that what he did was just catching up with him and they made him promise to leave me alone from now on. Moreover, they aren't letting him move back into his old room. Instead, they are putting him up in a hot, stuffy loft above their garage, which isn't exactly comfortable. It has weak walls and no AC for the summer heat. I've since returned to my routine of riding my bike to and from work, and thankfully I haven't been bothered by Mike or any of his friends. They seem to have distanced themselves from me and anyone associated with me, and honestly, I'm okay with that. It's just crazy to think that this whole drama stemmed from a simple used beach cruiser. It wasn't even an expensive one. I often wonder if Mike looks back on all of this and thinks it was worth it. But honestly, I have no desire to see his face anytime soon. It was a normal afternoon when I decided to stop by the grocery store on my way home from the library. I had just finished my shift at the coffee shop down the street and was looking forward to getting home, taking a shower, and relaxing for the rest of the day. As I walked through the produce section, I noticed a woman standing near the apples, staring at me with a look of confusion on her face. I tried to ignore her and continue on my way, but she called out to me. "Excuse me," she yelled. "Can you tell me where the bread is?" I hesitated for a moment, wondering if I should just pretend I didn't hear her and keep walking, but something about the way she was looking at me made me feel like I had to respond. It's over in the bakery section," I said, trying my best to sound polite. The woman, who we could call Karen, narrowed her eyes at me. "Don't you know how to speak properly? What are you doing just standing around here? Don't you have work to do?" I was taken aback by her rude tone and the way she was talking to me. "I was just a customer, not an employee." "I'm sorry, ma'am," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I don't work here. I'm just shopping." Karen scowled at me, her lips turning into a thin line. "Well, you look like you work here, and you certainly don't have any right to be standing around like that. Go do your job." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was 15 years old and this woman was talking to me like I was a child. I tried to walk away, but she grabbed my arm with her nails digging into my skin. "Ow, that hurts," I protested, trying to pull away from her, but Karen was relentless. She tightened her grip on my arm, her eyes blazing with anger. "You listen to me, young lady," she yelled out. "I'll teach you some respect." I couldn't take it anymore. I wrenched my arm free from her grasp and took a step back, but before I could get away, Karen reached out and she slapped me across the face. I was stunned, tears welling up in my eyes. I couldn't believe what had just happened. I was about to run out of the store when I noticed who was standing behind Karen. It was my mother. At that moment, I just remembered that we were supposed to meet up at the store and then head home together as we planned earlier that day. And from the expression on her face, clearly she saw me getting slapped by this awful lady because her eyes were just blazing with fury. Without a word, she put her hand on Karen's shoulder, turned her around aggressively, and knocked the damn lights out of her with a straight punch to the face. "How dare you lay a hand on my daughter?" She screamed at the now flat on her back Karen with a lot of rage in her voice. "You have no right to treat anyone like this, especially a child." The police were called, and when they arrived, They pulled the CCTV footage and arrested Karen on the spot. I was still shaking when we got home, but my mother wrapped me in a hug and told me that everything was going to be okay. "You did nothing wrong, sweetie," she said. After Karen was arrested and charged with assault on a minor, the judge gave her a hefty penalty for her actions. I remember my mother telling me about it. She has 3 years of probation and has to undergo anger management counseling, my mother said, and she has to pay a fine of $5,000 and do 100 hours of community service. But despite the fact that Karen had been punished for her actions, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease whenever I went on public. I was always worried that someone else might try to hurt me or treat me with disrespect, and it made me feel vulnerable and scared. I tried to push those thoughts to the back of my mind and focus on my studies and my part-time job at the coffee shop, but every now and then I would catch a glimpse of Karen's face in my mind, and I would feel a shiver run down my spine. But as the days went on, Karen's assault on me became a distant memory, and I was grateful that my mother had been there to defend me, and I knew that I was lucky to have her in my life. Hey there guys, I never thought I'd be posting on this subreddit, but here goes. I'm a 26-year-old guy, and I was planning to propose to my girlfriend on our 4th anniversary, which happens to be on September 30th. I have been planning this for about a month, and I even picked out a ring a couple of weeks ago. The thing is, the ring I found was on sale, so I got it at a surprisingly low price. Everything seemed perfect until my brother entered the picture. Last weekend, I decided to share my proposal plans with my older brother who is 33 years old. I showed him the ring I had picked out because, well, we're close, and I thought he'd be happy for me. But that's not what happened. My brother told me that he was also planning to propose to his girlfriend, who is 29 years old. Okay, that's cool, right? 2 brothers proposing around the same time. It could be like a double celebration, but here is where the problem began. The very next day, my brother came over to my apartment while my girlfriend was out. He looked me straight in the eye and asked, "Can I borrow your ring to propose to my girlfriend?" At first, I thought he was joking, but he was dead serious. His plan was to propose to his girlfriend using my ring as a placeholder and then take her to pick her own ring later. He explained that he didn't want to spend too much money right away in case she said no. Honestly, I'd never heard of these so-called placeholder rings before, so my immediate response was to say no. I mean, it's my engagement ring, right? But the conversation didn't stop there. Fast forward to Tuesday, and my brother had actually gone ahead and proposed to his girlfriend with my ring. He'd taken it from my apartment while I was distracted at work, and I didn't even notice it was missing until his fiancée sent a picture of herself proudly wearing it in our family group chat. I was furious. I called my brother immediately to ask him about the ring, and he confessed right away. He said he'd keep his promise and give it back to me. But here is a kicker. My girlfriend had already seen it, and his fiancé had posted about it on social media. So proposing to my girlfriend with the same ring was pretty much out of the question at this point. We got into a heated argument, and it turned out that while my brother had told his fiancée the ring was just a placeholder, he conveniently left out the part about where he gotten it from. Me. This just made things even messier. At this point, I was angry and hurt by the fact that my own brother had gone behind my back and taken something that I had clearly said no to. I also knew his fiancée well enough to understand that she wouldn't appreciate learning that her engagement ring had essentially been stolen from me. So, I laid it out for my brother. I'd tell her the truth unless he bought me a new engagement ring. Now, he put up a fight for a few hours, but eventually he gave in and agreed to buy me a new ring. We went to a different jewelry store the very next day, and I picked out a ring within the same price range. However, it was still $100 more expensive than the one he swiped. My brother did buy the ring, but he's still accusing me of being inconsiderate and childish. He keeps insisting that he would have given me the ring back if I had just given him the chance, and that I didn't need to threaten his relationship by forcing him to spend extra money on me. To top it off, he's refusing to talk to me now. I can't even talk to my fiancé about it because many of our friends overlap, and I don't want to create any unnecessary drama. The only other person who knows about this whole mess is our mom. She's kind of divided on the issue. She thinks what my brother did was definitely wrong, and I have every right to be upset with him. However, she is not entirely happy with the way I handled it myself by essentially threatening his relationship. So am I the jerk here? Did I handle this situation inappropriately, or was I justified in standing my ground? And now some comments on the post. Someone saying, "You're not the jerk. Your brother created this entire situation and is 100% at fault. If it were me, I'd make all four parties sit down and explain everything. You might as well rip the band-aid off now cause it's going to come out sooner or later. It will be much worse if it's later." Another commenter says, "Not that jerk. He stole your ring. That was a choice he made. And it's also that choice that is threatening his relationship, not your reaction and words. It's completely fair if you never trust him again, since he also decided that having that ring was more important than a good relationship with you." A third commenter goes with, "On the scale of crazy behavior with no rational justification, this is way up there on your brother's part, OP. Not the jerk. Also, there is no way that both fiancés won't find out exactly what happened here, so we all are better off just coming clean now on how this went down. I hope you plan on telling your girlfriend. Well, after you propose, of course." I, a 38-year-old female, was driving back from the high school where I teach. I was going to the supermarket to buy some groceries for my husband and 2 kids. While I was browsing some items, there was a short young lady trying to reach some tampons that were on the top shelf. Since I'm 5'7" and she was pretty, I offered to help her. "Here you go, sweetie," I say. The pretty lady says, "Thank you." I must confess, I got distracted checking her out while she walked away. She was very pretty, that until I heard a finger snapping from behind me. I got annoyed and turned around to see a 50-ish Karen. No Karen haircut though, and no mask. "Hey you, come help me out." "Hey, no, I got stuff to do." "You have to help the customers." "Yeah, I don't work here," I said with a basket in my hand and clothes that don't resemble the store uniform. "Yes you do. You help that lady. Now come on." She said this while snapping her finger and turning around expecting me to follow her. I did not and turned away to do my own shopping. I barely heard her footsteps behind me. "I told you to come with me." And she pinches my right arm hard. It left a bruise. I saw red and I smacked her hand away with a lot of force. And I yelled at the top of my lungs, "What the fork is wrong with you? Don't you ever touch me again." "Don't speak to me like that. I'm a customer, and you must do as I say." "I don't work here," I said, shaking my basket in front of her. And that's when the manager and Sarah, not her real name, an employee who happens to be a former student of mine, came to see what's going on. The manager asks, "Whoa, ladies, what's going on here?" I say, "She pinched me." And Karen adds, "She hit me. You need to fire her." "Well, ma'am, she doesn't work here, and you need to wear a mask." Then he turns to me and asks, "And why did you hit her?" "Well, she pinched me first." And I showed him where she pinched me. "Oh, big deal. She hit me. You need to fire her." Sarah says, "She doesn't work here. We already told you." The manager adds, "Ma'am, we can review the security footage later, but I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Karen went silent for a moment, and then it happened. She actually swung a slap at me, which I somehow Matrix dodged then instead landed on poor Sarah's face. Karen marched to the exit while we were left stunned. The manager immediately called security on his walkie-talkie, while I had to grab Sarah so she didn't go and beat up Karen. Not the first time I had to do this. When the security guard grabbed Karen, she let out the loudest banshee scream I had ever heard. Sarah got a small wound on her face from the slap, since Karen had rings on. The manager gave me a 30% discount for my purchases for the troubles, while Karen got assault charges. When I told my husband, he was shocked.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.